Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Wednesday everybody. This week we learned that General Secretary Xi Jinping and Politburo Standing Committee member Li Jianshu will soon be making trips overseas. This is the first time that Xi himself or any member of China's Supreme Politburo Standing Committee have left the country since the original Wuhan outbreak at the beginning of the pandemic. It is reported that Xi Jinping will travel to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, the governments of which have made the announcements for the trips, and it's also believed that during the visits, Xi will have a face-to-face meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. We remember that the last in-person meeting between the two heads of state was during the Beijing Winter Olympics, just before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Next week, Uzbekistan will host the annual meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a Eurasian political and security forum. Xi is expected to attend. The other notable trip is by Li Jianshu, chairman of the National People's Congress Standing Committee and a member of the Supreme 7-person Politburo Standing Committee. Li is officially China's third highest ranked official after the General Secretary and Premier. Li, fourth tone, not to be confused with the more common family name Li, third tone, like Premier Li Keqiang, will pay official visits over 10 days to Russia, Mongolia, Nepal, and the Republic of Korea, starting from today. While in Russia, Li will attend the 7th Eastern Economic Forum. State media writes that one objective of the Russian leg of his trip is to strengthen China's partnership with Russia. During a recent meeting with Russia's ambassador to China, Li expressed that the two countries, quote, have headed towards the right direction under the strategic guidance of the two leaders, with firm mutual support and constant political trust. Through close strategic and practical cooperation, the new era of China-Russia comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination has shown deeper meaning, manifesting the special value of the two countries. End quote. Okay, moving on. Yesterday, Tuesday, Beijing held its 27th meeting of the Central Commission for Comprehensively Deepening Reform, which was presided over by General Secretary Xi Jinping himself. A key topic on the agenda was related to, quote, mobilizing the resources nationwide to achieve breakthroughs in core technologies, end quote. On this point, state media writes that the Commission reviewed how to advance this goal under the socialist market economy, to use its language, and that Xi himself expressed, quote, China should optimize the allocation of innovation resources based on the country's strategic needs, strengthen the country's strategic scientific and technological strength, greatly improve the systematic ability to tackle key scientific and technological problems, and cultivate competitive advantages, and seize the strategic initiative in a number of important areas, end quote. The meeting stressed a focus on research and development of key technologies, with first mover advantage and basic frontier technologies leading the future development. This policy, of course, fits into the already established self-sufficiency policy advocated by Beijing and championed by the General Secretary for several years now. We should also view this in the broader context of the US-China, EU-China, and Japan-China technology competitions. For example, analysts now warn that the recent US export restrictions on NVIDIA's A100 and forthcoming H100 GPUs will hinder domestic efforts to be at the forefront of autonomous vehicle research, an area of particular interest for Chinese policymakers and an industry which has received billions of dollars in subsidies and other government support. Indeed, the chairman of popular Chinese electric vehicle maker XPeng Inc. expressed this week on his social media account, quote, the bad news is that this restriction will bring challenges to all cloud computing platform training of autonomous driving algorithms, end quote. Though he added that the good news is, quote, we have brought enough products to meet demand for several years, end quote. Meanwhile, on this topic, US media is reporting that the White House is planning to sign executive orders that would place heavy restrictions on US investments in China. For example, one would reportedly narrow the kinds of technology that can be sold to PRC firms, and another could go after companies like TikTok by tightening how they collect data on US citizens. Okay, next up, the economy. Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button. And as always, everyone, if you want to go that extra mile and help me continue producing these videos every day, help the channel be financially sustainable, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. This week, Japanese financial services firm Nomura Holdings Limited has once again cut its forecasts for Chinese GDP. In a report published yesterday, Nomura's China team told clients that the tightening of zero-COVID restrictions in recent days, which we have been following very closely on China Update, means that the already revised down economic forecasts from just a few weeks ago need to be reduced further. We remember that as of the weekend just been, 33 cities and over 65 million people in China are now under some form of lockdown. And if we include restrictions and mass testings, this number is well over 100 million. According to Nomura's report, as of yesterday, Tuesday, approximately 12% of China's total GDP is now affected directly by these lockdowns, up from 5.3% just 1 week ago. Based on this increase, Nomura has now cut its 2022 GDP forecast to 2.7%, down from the 2.8% set just a few weeks ago. And if zero COVID measures continue, this could continue coming down. This is all despite the recent announcement of over 1 trillion RMB in new stimulus and a fresh commitment from top Beijing officials at a special meeting held on Monday of this week that more support for the economy would come in Q3. Indeed, analysts appear to be increasingly concerned. Nomura, in its note yesterday, expressed bluntly, quote, "Back in August, when we cut our Q3 and Q4 GDP growth forecasts, we did not expect growth to worsen at such a pace." End quote. The analysts also agree with our observation from last week that because new lockdowns affect major urban centers rather than rural towns and cities that we saw before, the disruptions of these lockdowns will be much more acute for the national economy. Quote, "What is becoming increasingly concerning is that COVID hotspots are continuing to shift away from several remote regions and cities with seemingly less economic significance to the country to provinces that matter much more to China's national economy." End quote. Meanwhile, UK-based Reuters' most recent poll of economists suggests ongoing pessimism for China's housing sector. According to a survey of more than 10 analysts and economists polled by the outlet between August 29th and September the 2nd, new home prices are expected to fall 1.4% in 2022, with sales declining approximately 25%. Much worse than the 10% decline expected by economists and analysts in the last survey by Reuters back in May. So what are the analysts saying about the property market going forward? Quote, "Uncertainty over China's growth prospects and concerns about project incompletion will largely drive weak home buyer demand over the next 6 to 12 months. COVID-19 disruptions to business activity and sales execution will also dampen consumer sentiment, while buyers' expectation of weaker property prices will delay property purchases." End quote. For several months now, both the central government and over 200 local governments have rolled out measures to support the property market, but to little success. And some commentators say that much more is needed if the state truly wants to reverse the decline. Quote, "Multiple easing policy measures are needed to stabilize the property sector, such as relaxing curbs on purchase, reselling, and lending in second-tier cities. China must also step up financing for some developers and ensure housing projects which have not yet been finished are delivered to buyers." End quote. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.